Hi there, Gail Wilson here from MyRepurposedLife.com. I'm going to show you how I can turn this antique spool bed into this beautiful headboard bench using 5 basic power tools. Most people find MyRepurposedLife.com by searching for headboard bench tutorial. I've been making these benches since the beginning. Now, if you're making a twin bed bench, you will cut your footboard in half, but this is a full-size bench, so I'll be using the left side and the right side of the footboard. I measure, mark, and cut using a jigsaw and marking it at about 18.5 inches because I like to make my beds about 19 inches deep. So it's marked, and now I'm cutting it with the jigsaw, which is power tool number 1. See how easy? Let the jigsaw do the work. Just push it slowly. Now it's time to go to the top of the footboard, the big fat spool. I use the jigsaw for that as well with a long blade. Now this is one armrest. I will still have to cut the other armrest. When I cut them, they were a little uneven, so I used my power tool number 2, the compound miter saw, to even up the edges. This is the part that was left over in the middle of the spool bed footboard. I like to keep all my Kreg Jig supplies in this bucket. Now this Kreg Jig I'll be using power tool number 3, if we're keeping track of this, to do my pocket hole screws. Don't do as I do. I messed this up. The drill bit was set correctly, but the jig was set for a previous project and the holes were drilled too far from the edge of the headboard. So I did 3 of them wrong, but later you'll see that I did 2 the correct way. These are the 3 that are too long. Now this is the other 2 added, and I used the regular shorter screws for the 2, and then I used one of these long screws in that middle hole that was wrong. This is the bed, and the pocket hole screws will allow it to set upright, but I still haven't connected the top of the armrest. To do that, I drilled a pilot hole and secured it with a long wood screw. A tip from my mom: if you use bar soap to soap the threads of your long wood screws, it will drive in quickly and easily. The soap will come out as the screw goes in, but just simply wipe away the soap and you're done. The bench needs 2 support boards. I measured and marked and cut them for the front and the back. This is the front board. As I'm securing it with the pocket hole screws and the drill, I used 2 clamps connected to hold it in place. This bedpost needed to be repaired. I removed this big chunk and all the hardware, and then I sanded it smooth with the next power tool, the orbital sander. I measured and cut with the jigsaw a scrap piece of wood that would become the new profile of the damaged bedpost. I secured the board with wood glue and the next tool, the nail gun. This made it very quick and easy. You'll notice that it does have a sharp profile, and I'll fix that in a minute. I patched all the holes, and this is another look at the board. To make my own wood putty, I used Gorilla Glue and sawdust. That allowed me to fill in the gaps, but I still have to fix that profile. Look at this. The orbital sander sanded it down and softened the edges perfectly. Now I'm ready to add the back support board that will hold the seat in place. This is the basic build of any headboard bench. All you have to do now is add a seat. I always cut the sawmill edge off of my boards when I make a seat or anything that's going to show the edges. I cut the first board and used it to mark all the remaining boards. Then I knocked off the rough edges with a sanding sponge, and don't forget to remove those stickers. The boards on each end needed to be notched to fit around the bedposts. So I marked them, and then I used my combination square to finish marking the notches, and the jigsaw was used to cut the notches on both end boards, making 4 notched pieces altogether. I worked my way across the seat, securing each of the boards with Gorilla Wood glue and my nail gun. The Kreg multi-tool was used to make the overlap the same all the way across, and the metal yardstick was used for spacing. Now it's time to paint. Of course, I used my Super Finish Max and the chalky paint primer that is my favorite. I put 2 coats of the chalky paint primer and 2 coats of semi-gloss. Can you imagine painting this by hand? And here is the finished bench. You could make one in a weekend using 5 basic power tools. I have all the directions on the blog, myrepurposedlife.com. This is Gail Wilson saying bye for now.